I think Evolve is a very interesting game that could have done really well if it was in different hands and maybe in a different time period. But I'm getting way ahead of myself. Hi, what's up, guys? How's it going? Today I wanted to talk about Evolve. I'm guessing you can tell by the title. This was a game I was super excited for before the game launched, and then when it did launch, I just really wasn't the biggest fan of it, and I really wanted to talk about what happened to the game. So I think one thing we should talk about before we dive right into it is, what is Evolve? Evolve was a multiplayer focused game where it was a 4v1 style where you had 4 hunters that were hunting down a monster, and the 4 hunters would obviously hunt down the monster, and the monster would have to evolve, see what they did there, to different stages to grow stronger, and they could go to stage 2, and stage 3 was like their final stage, and then once they hit stage 3, they could either kill the hunters or finish the objective and win, or the hunters would obviously kill the monster and win. And honestly, this sounds like very fun, and it was made by a studio that has done good multiplayer in the past, which is Take-Two Interactive, and they've made some slight hitters like both the Left 4 Dead's and Counter-Strike. And those are great games in their own right. So what happened to Evolve? Let's dive right into that. So the concept for Evolve has been sitting around for a long time, like way before release and way before development even started for the game. The game was released in 2015, but the concept for Evolve was around a decade before that, in 2005. And the reason development didn't start back then was because Take-Two Interactive felt like the technology was not good enough to support what they wanted to do with the game. So they kind of just sat on it for a while. Which honestly I agree with, because it would have been really funny and weird to have Evolve released back then. I don't think the game would have done as well as it did in 2015. If you can say the game did decent, which honestly it didn't, but I think it would have done worse. Like I said though, they sat on the game, it was benched for a while, and they ended up releasing Left 4 Dead 1 and 2, which are some of my favorite games, so much fun. That's besides the point though. But after those games were released, they put together a presentation and went around to publishers to try to get someone to publish this game for them. No one really wanted to take up this game though, since it was multiplayer focused, and they went around to a bunch of different publishers and they finally found one, which was THQ. They were really excited about it, so they picked up the game, and THQ had one problem though when they picked up the game, and that was a financial issue. So they worked with THQ for a little bit, but what ended up happening with THQ was they ended up going bankrupt, and they ended up declaring for bankruptcy on December 19th, 2012. So they spent all this time looking for a publisher to publish their game. They finally get one and it goes bankrupt. It already seems like there's some curse on this game, honestly. But with their publisher going bankrupt, and the fact that they've been sitting on this game for 7 years, they want this game back to find a new publisher to finally get this game made. But before they can do that, everything that THQ owned was put up for auction, including the publishing label and rights to Evolve. So they had to buy that back. So all the people in Turtle Rock Studios, or at least the developers, put together some money for it, put together about $250,000 to put up for Evolve, which is honestly a pretty sizable chunk of change, and they put it up. But they were beat out by somebody else that put up $11 million. And that fun little group that did that was a company called Take-Two Interactive. And if you've never heard of Take-Two Interactive, they own some very influential game developers like Rockstar Games and 2K. But of course, that $11 million won, and they ended up getting the publishing label and the rights to Evolve. Turtle Rock was happy though with actually finding a publisher for the game, and they started work on Evolve immediately. The game was announced on January 7th, 2014, and in the trailer for the game, it was slated to release on October 21st, 2014, but I think something went wrong, and something ends up happening. Of course, though, the game gets delayed until February 10th, 2015, and by this point you might be asking yourself, Taco, what's going on? Because nothing right now seems inherently bad. It just seems like the game's been in development hell. What has killed this game? Well, we're getting to that because the first signs of trouble, they're coming up. And what that was is they offered DLC for the game before it was launched, which I feel like is a pretty common practice. And so the game was a AAA game, obviously. It was $60 at launch. And then they had a season pass for $25, which is normal. Is very, very normal. But on top of the season pass, they offered skins, which were not covered by it. And with all the bundles and all the skins put together, it was $60. Keep in mind, though, the skins were cosmetic only and offered no additional like buff or anything else in the game, just purely cosmetic. And I'm not going to deny, if you bought everything, it was $145, which is a lot of money for a game that hasn't even launched yet. And I think you know that this rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Like a lot of people. It felt like Evolve and also Turtle Rock was trying to just like squeeze money out of them like as much as possible before the game was launched. And a lot of articles were written about the game, and a lot of people were very pissed off before the game was even released. But I want to talk about something that goes hand in hand with the DLC, and that is the pre-orders and what they had with them. For some reason, it was really hard to find all of the pre-orders. I'm not sure if that was because I'm still kind of new to this, or if it was just they were actually hard to find. But it took me at least like a good hour to find them. That's besides the point, though. So the first pre-order we have is the regular, just pre-order the game, nothing else, $60. And with that, you would obviously get Evolve. And on top of that, you would get instant access to the third tier of monsters and hunters. And what that meant was you got a baseline 4 hunters and a baseline 1 monster. But if you did a certain action multiple times, you would get the second tier. And you do it even more, you would get the third tier of hunters and monsters. So with pre-ordering the game, you would get the third tier access instantly. And on top of that, you would get free access to the monster expansion pass, which would give you a 4th monster for free when that monster would release a few months after the game. So after the regular edition, we have the deluxe edition, and that was $79.99, and it came with all of the fun little features that the regular version had, but on top of that, it also had the season pass with it. What the season pass had was a magma skin for the monsters and also 4 new hunters when they would release further down the line. And now we have one more pre-order, and that is the Evolve PC Monster Race Edition, which was $99.99. And I'm guessing you can tell by the name of that, that is a PC exclusive. And it has everything that the deluxe edition had and even more. Like, it will give you a 5th monster when that was set to release, and 2 additional hunters when they release as well. And then plus, it would give you 4 additional monster skins that you could only use for 30 days for some weird reason. I'm not sure why. I don't know. Don't ask me. Very strange. The thing is, though, when this game was released, it was released to pretty high reviews, and you can play this game without DLC and still have a fun time. Like, IGN gave this game a 9 out of 10, and to put that in perspective, other games they gave 9 out of 10 are like Dark Souls and Demon Souls, which I don't know if I would agree with Evolve being on the same level as them, but that's a different story. That's not what we're here for today. And GameSpot gave the game an 8 out of 10. I think one thing that hurt this game when it was released was there was no good single-player aspect to the game. What I mean by that is there was no campaign. So when you were playing single-player, you were basically just playing multiplayer, but with dumbed-down AI. And it wasn't really that fun. And I think having no campaign aspect really hurt the game. And on top of that, the game modes that were released were fun at first, but they didn't put many game modes in very quickly after the game was released. So with having no good single player aspect to it and the multiplayer kind of getting boring after a little bit, I think that definitely did culminate in doing some additional damage and losing some players to this game. But the previous 2 aspects of single player and multiplayer getting boring, and the microtransactions were not the only thing that killed this game. One of the big things that really hurt this game was that since it was multiplayer focused, and you wanted to have 4 hunters on your team so you could play with your friends, you would have to spend $240 in total to have you and 3 other players all on the same team. And that is a lot of money for just this one game. And what you do if your friends that you normally play with don't decide to pick up this game, but you do, that's when we enter the matchmaking aspect of this game. So the hunters have to be in sync enough to kill the monster, and the reason for that is there are 4 different classes. There is the assault class, which obviously rushes in and fights the monster. There is the medic, which is obviously the medic. There is the support class, which is support. And then there's the trapper class, which kind of traps the monster in and makes it easier to fight so the monster can't run away or it's slowed down. But the assault class was the one that would like fully rush in. And let's say you wanted the assault class, but you joined matchmaking because your friends didn't buy the game, and you got the medic. You would quit because you wanted to play the assault, and you're good with the assault, and you didn't want the medic. What would happen was every other player would be kicked as well. See, the easy fix would just be that player leaves, fill in another player, but no. What would happen was one player would leave because they didn't get the role they wanted, and when that player left, it would kick everyone out of the party. So it would take a while to find a game where everyone had the preference they wanted on the class, and once you did start, the actual matchmaking aspect wasn't that good because you would have noobs and pros matched up together, and let's say you had 2 pros and 2 noobs on the hunter's team and the monster was a pro. The hunters would get fucking steamrolled just because of the fact that the hunters were not in sync enough or not good enough to kill the monster, and the monster just fucking ran over them, making the game not fun. And that drove a lot of fans away with the multiplayer not having many modes at launch, and then also taking a while to actually get into the games. It drove a lot of people away. Now on to what I would say is the second biggest problem for Evolve, and that was the balancing aspect of it and how long it took them to implement fixes for the game. The PC version was doing a lot better on this than the actual console version was, and that was because the console version had bigger problems and there were updates released less frequently. One example I can give was there was a monster called the Wraith that was the 3rd tier of monster that you could get instantly on release for the game, if you pre-ordered it, obviously. And the Wraith at launch was fucking busted. It had this one move where it would flail its claws rapidly and it would just fucking devour. I mean, devour any hunter that stood in its way. I mean, there was really nothing you could do about it. And obviously getting fucking mowed down by this fucking monster made the game not fun, so people left. And it took the studio over a month to fix that. A month from launch to fix that. If that was like some other AAA game like Call of Duty that had some busted gun, that would be fixed within the first couple of weeks of the game being released. But after that, patches were released every couple months, and they started to get farther and farther in between, and with as many problems Evolved had, they needed them very frequently. So of course that leads to even more players leaving Evolve because the game was unbalanced and kind of broken and not fair. And about 5 months after the game was released, they ended up releasing a second season pass, which I'm not sure why they thought that was a good idea. But they released a second one, and it failed, obviously, as well. And about a year after the game's launch, they made the game free to play completely. And they fixed the game up a lot. And they did get a search new players in, but I mean, it was not anything enough to revitalize the game. And it felt like way too little, way too late. And then by September of 2018, about 3 years after the game's launch, the dedicated servers for the game got turned off. So, if you pick up Evolve nowadays, you obviously cannot play online, and you're stuck to single player, which is the footage you guys are seeing is my time playing single player in 2022 of Evolve. And if for some random ass reason you wanted to pick up Evolve, it's like $5 on GameStop. Now time for the biggest and most egregious problem that Evolve faced. And I'm going to give you a second to kind of think of what this problem would be. Because when I was researching Evolve, I did not expect this to be the biggest problem. But I was looking into it and looking at like how I'm not even going to say anything. I'll wait till you guys think of your answer. Thought of it? Okay. So when I was researching the game, and when I was looking at it, when I was looking at the marketing for the game, which is the biggest problem, I did not expect that to be the thing that would drive this game into the ground. And in my personal opinion, that is what drove it into the ground. And I'm gonna explain why. I'm gonna explain myself a little bit and tell you why. And I know a lot of people would point to the DLC being the first thing, but I think the marketing was the first thing that caught people. Because the game was marketed as a very fast-paced, very competitive Call of Duty or like Halo type game where it was fast-paced, instant gratification kills, and combat. And that's not what this game is at all. I mean, it was very slow and methodical. I mean, there was fast-paced combat at times, definitely. But most of the time it was slow, methodical, and it was kind of a chess match. And it was the hunters obviously trying to hunt the monster down, and the monster was trying to hide and get away until it could evolve and become bigger. But games wouldn't be short and quick normally if you had a good set of players on each team. They would last for a good maybe like 10 or 15 minutes just for one game. So they really just marketed it to the wrong audience and tried to get it out to the wrong audience before the game was released. And I think that that is probably the biggest thing that hurt this game, was because players came in thinking it was like Call of Duty, like players like me. And when it wasn't like that, we just dropped the game because it was not what we were told it was. And even with that, I don't think this is a bad game. I think that it's honestly a very good game. And I think that if it was released in a different time period, maybe with a little less problems and a little more polished, I think that this game could have done a lot better. Is it my type of game personally? No, it's not. But I can still see where this game could have succeeded. But I think if things went differently, it could still be going on to this day and still have a cult following, but that's not what happened. And in my personal opinion, we can't point to one specific thing that killed this game. It was a culmination of many different problems that the game had that fully just drove this game and sunk it and made it to the point where it was not able to be revived at all. By late 2016, Turtle Rock stopped publishing any new content for the game, and like I said, 2018 is when the dedicated servers were shut down. Overall, in my personal opinion, this game is a look at what could have been and to show how many problems can kill a game. I think that they thought 2015 was a good time to release this game. I still think that they were ahead of their time on release. I think this game would have done better nowadays. But there's nothing we can do except look back and see what not to do. And I definitely skipped out on some points probably, and I definitely missed some points. So if you guys want to let me know any of them down in the comments below, I would be happy to see them. And I think a lot of people that watch this video would be happy to see other points about what killed this game as well. If you enjoyed the video, definitely leave a like on it and a comment. Like I said, subscribe, because if you don't, I'm going to send you into the world of Evolve and make you survive and have fun with that, because I don't think you're going to do too well. So for your own safety, go down and click the big red button. All right. I also wanted to touch on the Call of Duty video that I mentioned in the From Software video, the last one, not last one, yeah. If you guys haven't watched that, watch it. It'll be somewhere around here to click on somewhere. I'm not sure where, but it'll be somewhere. Click on that video. Watch that video if you haven't yet. But the Call of Duty video is going to be very, very long. Right now on Google Docs, I'm at 12 pages, and I'm only up to Call of Duty Black Ops 2. So, very, very long video. I'm really hoping for a release date of like late June, early July for it. So stay tuned for that one. Hell, I'm not even sure when this is being released, because right now I'm recording it on June 5th, 2022. So who knows when this video is going to go out. I have zero clue. I hope you guys enjoyed the video though. If you did, go down, do whatever, you know. I hope that you, yes, you right there, have a fan-fucking-tastic day. And, of course, guys, like always, deuces.